Brad Cesmat Show, broadcasting live.
And we're joined by Jordan Spurgeon with the trade deadline behind us. Spurgeon and I said, let's chop it up. We're doing that. Of course, Desert Financial Credit Union is our title sponsor. We appreciate them and their support. I am pretty happy with what went down today. Where are you at on the trades for the Diamondbacks? We'll go through it here in a minute, but I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, it's exactly what they needed to do. You know, we talked like a couple weeks ago, and they just got cold, and you had to get something for these guys. So I think they've done very well. We'll get into specifics, but the Merrill Kelly trade seems like the best trade. I think we all kind of figured he had the most value on this team.
Yep.
Just because of the lack of starting pitching on the market and how consistent he's been, and so I think getting 3 top prospects from the Rangers is very important. And last minute, I'm just seeing this. I don't know if you saw it before he popped on. It sounds like Shelby Miller at the buzzer to the Brewers. So we'll find more on that too.
Yeah, I think if you look at up and down at people are going to say, what about Zach Gallen? That's going to be a draft pick. And I can't see Zach back here next year, but you never know. I think, look, they had a World Series team. They had a team that went to the World Series. You and I were there down in Texas. And from my point of view, when you know that the window's going to close, I don't like that the trade deadline is July 31st. I think it's not cool to say, okay, we're out of it. I'd say if you get to August 15th, the end of the month of August, I know there's rules, but look, baseball's changed all sorts of rules. You can put a runner on second base in extra innings. You can figure out how to do the trade deadline and maybe make it a little bit later. That said, the good organization, Spurge, to me, and this, look, if it was a lousy day, I'd say flat out it's a lousy day. Facts are, we don't know. We can say this was prospect number 4 in this organization, or prospect number 9, or why didn't they get prospect number this, or prospect that. We can say that all day long today. This is one of those deals where fans are going to be excited through the moon. I'm going to sit here and say, let's just wait and see. We got to give this a couple of years to see which players really did pan out rather than just the immediate, oh, this is great, this is awesome, or this is terrible, this is the worst ever. What would have been the worst ever is if nothing happened today. Because I can see Merrill Kelly coming back here. He's building the house, the family. That whole storyline's out there. And by the way, that's been put out there through the organization. So, yeah, they could trade him. He's a rental. He goes down to Texas for 6 weeks. He gets him into the postseason. Great. He comes back here if they make the deal work financially. This is where his family wants to go. That all sounds great. Suarez, I mean, I'll go through each of them, but that's my take on all the prospects coming back today.
Yeah, I mean, I'll whip this up here on the screen because my graphics thing was down. So we went to ChatGPT to kind of show off some of the trades before Shelby Miller. But, you look at the prospects and their rankings within the organization. Like you said, none of that really matters. I think there's a lot to say. You look at the Padres today, they were extremely busy. They dealt a ton of prospects. And, hey, a lot of them don't pan out. But sometimes when you're a team that does that, they do pan out. I think over the last 6 years, the Padres have been that aggressive team. And I think I saw today it was about 15 of those prospects have become regular everyday starters. And they've probably traded away almost 40 high-level prospects in the last 6 years.
Wait, Bob Nightingale is saying Jordan Montgomery. He's going as part of the – Jordan Montgomery goes in the trade as well for salary relief.
For salary relief. I was going to say because his deal expires at the end of the year and he's out for the year. So that's a weird one. Maybe that's part of the Shelby Miller deal.
Yeah, it's part of the Shelby Miller deal, so he's going in. And Bob is – look, this is a day where you have to look and make sure it's not some parody account. It's not
right.
Is just making stuff up. It's not somebody saying I'm first in front of everybody. And you just have to be pretty straight on that. The fact that Shelby Miller and Jordan Montgomery go. So you're on this deal about next year, as am I, but I guess I'm just looking at this saying, man, the Jordan Montgomery deal, just seeing this come up as it did, has got to go down as one of the worst. And we knew that before. Madison Bumgarner is definitely the worst contract. Russ Ortiz's deal was pretty bad when he was here, back in the day. I'm trying to think all the way back to like year number 1, year number 2 of the organization, like the worst contracts that they've ever signed. And Jordan Montgomery, people have forgotten about him this year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So so you look at all the arms that are coming back. Is there anybody that jumps off the screen to you? For me, yeah, they got a first baseman. At least it sounds like they did. But beyond that, it's we shall see. Guys can throw 100 miles an hour nowadays. Great, 100 miles an hour, but does it go north and south? Does it go east and west?
Yeah, I mean, you look at this team. I mean, we all said, okay, you got to get arms back if you're going to do a fire sale. Locklear was a great pickup at first base just because there was really nobody in the organization that's proven they can play first base anytime soon in AA or AAA. Tristan English has been up. He's 27, hasn't shown the power. They don't think he's the guy. Pavin Smith this year is definitely not a guy that's proven himself to be an everyday first baseman. So once they traded Naylor, that was a hole they had to fill. So that made sense. Yep. Pitching wise, I stumbled into this video earlier. Cole, who they got from the Rangers, seems like he's got some electric stuff. Left-handed arm there. Seems to light it up. A lot of movement with his pitches. They were saying, I'm not an analyst. I'm not going to break down this video too much. But he's a guy that people were very high on in the Texas organization. And obviously Mike Hazen was. It sounds like he was adamant about getting him in the deal for Merrill Kelly. So, I mean, that seems like the guy that's going to be one of the prime arms. He's already in AAA. He's been between AA and AAA this year. So He'll be somebody to watch out for. And like we said, arms is what they needed because not only for this year, now they have to get through the rest of the season, a couple arms down. But next year, a lot of guys are still going to be down with Corbin Burns and Justin Martinez and AJ Puck. And so they're just going to need enough arms to get through. And other young guys like Christian Mena, who you thought would take the jump, they're going to be gone next year too with Tommy John. So they just need as many arms as possible. And if one or two of these guys, makes an impact on the big league club, I think you can say it was a successful trade deadline, but we won't know that till next year, maybe, but most likely 2027.
Yeah, I mean, the rotation, I'm just making sure on something here. The rotation, from my view, so the rest of this season, let's just go through the rest of the season because fans are pointing out the fact that, hey, look, last 2 years ago, they ended up in the World Series and it didn't look like they were going anywhere. This team still has, from my view, it's not a white flag that we can't do anything. Yeah, you trade your best bat in the middle of the lineup, who, by the way, was having an up and down year. In the last couple of weeks, Gino Suarez let everything get into his head. I'm not ripping him. It's just a fact, which is normal. So you go through how you had to move him, and you get back a first baseman. Josh Naylor was a fine player at the plate. He was not a fine player at first base. It's almost like Christian Walker. Christian Walker was terrific in the field, and he was terrific at the plate. And this year, it's been just the opposite. Christian Walker has been horrendous down in Houston at the plate. Has been great defensively. So are the Diamondbacks a better baseball team today? I think they're on more solid footing as an organization. Is this an indictment that Mike Hazen and his staff didn't get enough to build up the farm system enough through the years that they had to go out? How many arms did they get there, Spurge, total? I don't have it in front of me of everybody.
Total arms, I mean, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 arms total throughout all this. And on top of that, too, I'm sharing it now. Miller and Montgomery were just a salary dump. They get nothing from Milwaukee, but saves them money that they can try to spend next year, even though both were coming off the books. Maybe it's just Ken Kendrick's way of telling Hazen, save me as much money from this wasted season so I can spend it next year.
Well, and that's another thing about this. So I'm one of those that is fine with reloading. Mm-hmm. I'm fine with those retooling. Is this a tear down? Imagine being a fan of the Minnesota Twins today. What are the Minnesota Twins? Was it 11 players the last I saw that they traded away today?
Yeah.
That has got to be the worst. And you're sitting here in Arizona, and I'll just be interested because Ken's going to want a fall guy at the end of this year. He's going to want some answers about all the injuries that happened and the disappointing season and all that. That's the owner that I've known through the years. I think Ken's actually a pretty good owner. Some people don't. He's not the best, but some people are of the opinion that he's not a great owner. Hey, as a fan, I would think people would be happy that he is out there putting a competitive product on the field. If they just wanted Gino to stay here and get nothing for him at the end of the year, or find a way to get something for him when he's at the top of his game, or, well, I have a Suarez jersey, my kid's a big fan, I don't want to see him traded. That's not how you run a franchise in this day and age. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's like when the Suns held on to Steve Nash much longer than they should have because, well, he's Steve Nash and he'll sell tickets. Gonzo was in left field playing later than he should have because he couldn't throw. But he's my favorite player. That's how you get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, and that's kind of the interesting thing. I think what you touched on with, selling tickets and getting through the season. So you lose Gino and the hunt for potentially the franchise record single season for home runs. So you lose a little bit there. Holding on to Zach Gallen, not dealing him. I think that they weren't obviously going to get much for him. I'm okay with it because they also have to get through the season. You touched on who's going to take rotation spots now. I mean, you look at a Bryce Jarvis or an Anthony DeSclafani to take Kelly's spot. That's not promising. That's not going to be anything that people are excited about this year to see on the mound when they show up on a Saturday or a Sunday. Right. So, they got to get through this season. And, I think Mike Hazen, based on these deals, and Torrey, they probably feel this team can still be around 500. Obviously, that doesn't mean playoffs. It just means at least they're competitive down the stretch. Unless the last 9 days continue, then they're going to completely fall off the map. But baseball's a game of streaks, and they're not going to be this bad the rest of the year. This was a very deflating week for the team.
I think what you just said there, I'm just looking up something. I think what you said there is right. It's been the last week's been awful, but how much of that is because that locker room has been so close? You've pointed out to me that there's a real strong group of players that have a faith that are together, and Gino was the head of that. Okay. Yeah. Then he's playing great, and then it gets close to the deadline, and every day is being asked about if he's going to be traded or not. From a pitching side, I look at where the organization is today and say, okay, you're going to make it through this season. Ryan Nelson, outside of his last start, and even that wasn't terrible. It wasn't that bad. You got to figure out Brandon Pfaadt for next year. You've signed him to a long extension. He's not had a great season. You've got to figure out who down on the farm. Like, everybody is pretty certain that down on the farm they've got position players that are ready to come up here, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the deal. I mean, as we know, as soon as Lawler's healthy, which is always the thing with him, he's going to get third base the rest of the season. That's going to be probably a 35-40 game trial run. And I imagine based on next year, I think Ken Kendrick wants to put a competitive team out there next year. I think Mike Hazen does too. Yeah, a team that can at least compete for a playoff spot. So you don't want to have, can this guy prove himself all season long? But I think they're going to be in that sort of mode of let's build a competitive team, but probably not sign a third baseman to see if Lawler can be the guy next year. You have backup options if injuries continue to be a hurdle for him. Someone like a Blaze Alexander, who's not an everyday guy, but can be for stretches. So it'll be interesting, but they definitely have some things there. But I think the important thing to note with this team is the core is still intact. Ketel Marte still has plenty of good years left. Corbin Carroll's got a whole career ahead of him. Alec Thomas has time to figure it out. Jake McCarthy, Corbin Burns will be back next year. Justin Martinez will be back next year, even if it's at the end of the year. So this team still has the core to do all the right things. And, I think realistically, you look at all these prospects again. I think I said it earlier. If you can get two of these guys, maybe three of them to become real big league contributors, you'll look at this team in 2027 and say, oh, they're right where we thought they would be a couple years ago in the hunt for the postseason and potentially the World Series because that core is so good. So they just need a couple guys to hit. But every team's looking for that. Every team just wants a couple prospects to hit every few years, and it's hard.
Well, it's one of those with Jordan Lawler. It's put up or shut up.
Yeah.
Really, I'd like to see Blaze Alexander out there more. I love the athleticism of Jake McCarthy, but hasn't hit. Not wrong on that, right? I mean, if we're going to just sit here and poke holes, Alec Thomas has not really had the bat this season where it needs to be. Gurriel Jr. still here, fine enough. Is there an upgrade? The no-fly outfield when they have them all together? Is there enough pop in that bat? I mean, look at the lineup that they're going to roll out on the field. If you have Jordan Lawler over at third base, I've seen how Jordan Lawler so far. Prove it. I get so tired of the hype. I get so tired of, oh my gosh, this is the greatest, and he's the best, and then, And so if you have Jordan Lawler at third, And at shortstop, you have Perdomo. And at second base, you have Cattell. And at first base, player from the Mariners that they just picked up.
Locklear, yeah.
Yeah, Locklear.
Yeah.
Behind the plate, Gabby's back next year. There's some people, these are fans I talk to, they're down on Moreno. You've got some young outfielders with a lot of speed, but you don't have a lot of pop. So where's the fear of God in this lineup going to come from in the middle of this lineup? And as you said accurately, Corbin's on the front end of his smart contract 1. 2, he's the front end of his career. He's a perennial all-star. You don't want to see his career wasted away. And I don't believe that this organization is going to do that. This is not like Spurgeon, if we're being straight with the audience, it's the fact that in 2027, there will likely not be a baseball season to start the way that goes right now. Bryce Harper goes crazy on the commissioner this last week. It's the front end of we're not going to have a salary cap. So we're going to retool. We're going to get Corbin Burns right next season. We're not going to rush and bring him back. And we're going to be in a position as an organization where a lot of the moves that were made at the trade deadline of 2025 are setting us up for post what happens. It doesn't mean next year's a lost year. Even the Dodgers this year with all the injuries that they've had. And the Padres continue to go all in and all in and all in. And at some point, is that organization going to run up against an owner that says we have to cut the number here?
That was surprising with them this offseason. When Peter passed, Seidler, speaking of the Padres, it was will they spend? And all of a sudden this year they kind of had a team that you looked at like, oh, there's a lot of holes. They still have their core, kind of like the D-backs now, similar position. And they've played really well above expectations, and that ownership group went all in. So, but that's what the other bummer about this D-backs team. I know we're all going to talk about this for a long time about how lost it was, is the division's still wide open because the Dodgers have not been the big, mean, bad threat down the road this time. The Padres have a very legit chance. I saw the Giants over the weekend. They've got a really good team up there. They're doing that a little bit, but they have the pieces. If they have the guys that fix it out and figure it out, that's a dangerous team. So it's not this, oh, the Dodgers are going to win the division. Everybody else is spending to make the wild card. It's like, okay, there's room here. But yeah, the Padres, one thing you'll say about the D-backs that's smart for them is they did rebuild the program here, or the prospect bank. And you mentioned, maybe missing some of that power in the lineup when it does come time to compete again. Well, that's when you can, repackage some of these prospects like the Padres are doing and get the guys you need to fill in any holes that are on a roster. I see more value in prospects than that, going and getting 8, 9, 10 prospects. Again, maybe to see the club and actually do great. The other guys, you just hope there's enough potential that other teams are interested in to fill holes later on.
But I think it's very fair to ask, when you go out today and make as many moves as you did for pitching, is that an indictment on the farm system and saying we just don't have enough arms within our system?
I think it's development mostly. They haven't developed guys. I think even this has been Mike Hazen's weakness. His track record has been getting pitchers that are already AAA ready, and they seem to do well. Someone like a Zach Gallen, who they got a few years ago in a trade for Jazz Chisholm. It's those guys that are almost big league ready. For some reason, this team does not develop pitchers from a young level. Well, I know Fott has been a really good example until this year. Maybe that's on Brian Kaplan. Maybe that's just a slump year for Brandon Fott. Ryan Nelson's been a gem in the rough. But outside of that, they've had to sign pitchers, and a lot of times they've missed on the pitchers they've signed as well. Erod hasn't been that great. We've talked about Montgomery. You mentioned Madison Bumgarner. So pitching's kind of been the weakness of the Torey Lovello and Mike Hazen era, and I think a lot of it has just come to do with the development. I saw something last week when Torey got here. That was the best pitching staff that he had, and it's because him and Hazen didn't really build that together. And every year since, the pitching numbers have gone down. They've gone further and further to the bottom. So I don't know if that's just a culture or what, but they're going to have to fix that.
No, I look, I think Mike's done a good job. I'll take a World Series team.
Yeah.
I'll take a team that comes all the way down to the end of the line as they did last year. I'll take even today saying, okay, this isn't going the right way. Let's restock and retool. But what I don't like is the fact that we are seeing a team that somebody's got to be the fall guy. Somebody at the end of this year is going to be the fall guy. That's how Ken rolls. And I don't know if it's going to be Torey. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here today and say they need to fire everybody. But if you guys are all going to think that everyone's safe here in the organization, there's going to be a fall guy. So whoever that person is, when Zach leaves as a free agent, in all likelihood, there'll be one less person for the fans to get on. It's usually fire the third base coach, and that'll fix everything, or fire the pitching coach, and that'll fix everything. When you have the rash of injuries like they've had this year, is it the training staff? It's a very fair question to ask. And how many of those players next year are going to come back? And I think too, Jordan, it's that this is not a bad place to come play Major League Baseball. They've made it very inviting. They've proven that they were going to go out and spend money. They've gone the route of, I want to come to Arizona and take less money. Corbin Burns is the latest example of that. But they have not, for whatever reason, they had to go out today and restock a farm system that didn't produce enough arms for them. And that, to me, is a red flag.
Yeah, I think that's been where it's at. You know, you look at the bullpen this year. We've all touched on how bad it's been. It's been a lot of Mike Hazen just taking flyers on guys that were towards the end of their career, maybe out of it, and some of them hit. You know, you saw Shelby Miller was great this year before injury. Now he's dealt. Anthony DeSclafani, you can see Steve Gilbert there. He's going to take the rotation spot from Merrill. He's been pretty solid in long relief, and he's had a couple starts this year. Another guy that's just towards the end of his career was excited to come to Arizona, and so they've done a good job at that, but they haven't developed enough of that front end pitching that they're going to need. So it'll be interesting to see. You know, we keep touching on a fall guy. I think Brian Kaplan is 100% out. And I know a lot of fans want Torrey gone. I don't see Hazen and Torrey being separated. I think they're a package deal, and I don't think Ken Kendrick or even Derek Hall in that office have any issues with Hazen or Torrey. I think they're all on the same page about the injuries this year, right or wrong. I don't necessarily know what manager probably could have gotten this team into a better position. You know, maybe there's some guys that could have put this team in a better position. You know, there's a couple of times you look at the way he would manage things, but when I've watched the games, a lot of times when people are complaining about the bullpen, it's Torrey's just putting a guy out there with his hands tied saying, I just got to hope he gets some outs. I don't know who else to turn to.
Okay, so then that falls on the general manager. Exactly.
So it's a whole thing here. But again, a lot of it comes from injuries. So you look at the training staff and the pitching coach are sort of the easy scapegoats here. The training staff is interesting just because this team's had a lot of elbow injuries the last 5-6 years. Everyone has in baseball, but the D-backs have had a slightly elevated amount. And again, that might just be from the arms that they're pursuing, because they are pursuing a lot of guys that throw 97 to 102. And with that comes guys that have been doing it for 10 years already, and their elbows can't hold it up. And some of it might be the way the training staff operates. So it's a hard question that they're going to have to figure out if they ever want to get back to where they were a couple years ago.
But I give them credit in that, okay, Paul Sewald was traded today. Paul Sewald's hurt. He's going to come back. That's the market for closers. There isn't one really. There's not great closers top to bottom. But then you take a team like San Diego. The Padres put together a bullpen that was leading the league. And they added a closer from the A's, from Sacramento today. And okay, what is it that they're doing? Yeah, it's the ballpark. Yeah, it's the heavy air. I'll hear all that stuff. And this year, to Mike's credit, they take Shelby Miller off the scrap heap and turn him into something. Now he got hurt, but he actually was doing something. Why is it, though, that this bullpen it feels like it's always an issue? I was joking around a couple of weeks ago. BK Kim is not coming in the swinging gate. Go all the way back to the early days of this organization. And you're going to see that they've had problems. They just don't have the setup to get all the way through. Not since the 2001 team that I've seen. And
that's my problem. Yeah, they never have. It's a couple of times they've had some really good closers, and they don't have the guys to get them there. And this year, you had a couple of guys that have filled that role well. Martinez was looking really solid. Puck was great as always. Shelby Miller filled in nicely. Kevin Ginkel's had his moments, but outside of that, they've had no consistent leverage arms. I mean, right now, you trade away Shelby Miller, there's not a single high leverage arm in the bullpen right now. And they only traded away one reliever this year. Part of it's injuries, part of it's they didn't have anybody else. So who's going to close games? Probably Ginkel and some others, but they have not a single high leverage arm left on this team. So I know the offense is still good enough to win some games, but they're going to blow a lot of games down the stretch too.
I don't know. I hope that the bottom doesn't fall out, because I believe that this is a good enough roster It's a good enough roster. It was a roster that was good enough that coming out of spring training, you felt like I was not big on Corbin Burns not being the opening day starter. That was just me. Felt like, Zach, we still love you. We still believe in you. You're our guy. Zach's had an awful year. There's no other way to put it. And now you're sitting here on the trade deadline and your rotation is a mess for the most part, because anybody who's going to try to tell me that Erod's got it all figured out, I get so tired of the wave the flag. We're great. We're great. No, you're not. Deals need to happen.
Yeah.
You have to have a roster. You have to have a lot of luck in baseball. It's such a dang long season, and we've had a nice run here in Arizona around a franchise. It's been fine. So today's a reset to me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pull the plug and say, oh, I give up on them. Like, no.
No, I think they have all the pieces, and, really, like, back to the Torrey thing, really the only fault that I've seen, and I think it's just part of who he is, and it's a good thing that players like, but you talked about the belief in Gallen and making him the opening day starter. It's bled into games this year too, where Gallen's had a really solid 6 innings, but you can see him getting hit hard, and Torrey puts him out in the 7th, treating him like he's the 2023 Zach Gallen that was close to winning a Cy Young when he hasn't been. And then he goes into the 7th and gives up 4 or 5 runs or a couple, one blast or whatever. It completely ruins his start, completely ruins his confidence. It deflates the team. It blows a lead. And that's something that's happened a couple times this year, where Torrey has so much faith in his guys, which is, I know they respect and they love that. But sometimes he has to be able to, hey, let's just build a little bit of confidence right now. And so that's the one thing he can work on. But I agree, it's a reset. I don't think this is hey, at the end of the year, everybody's got to go. You got to blow things up. Some people are like, oh, you could trade Cattell because it's going to be a while. It's like, no, you don't need to do that. Just get some prospects, kind of see how you can build the roster a little bit next year. And then eventually you'll get to a spot where it's okay, we're a couple pieces away. Let's make some deals. Let's make some big signings and get those big pieces that we're missing. So I think they're going to be in a good spot. It's just about, again, a couple guys developing. Is Lawler the guy at third base? That solves a lot of issues. If he's not, you're going to have to get a third baseman. Maybe Gino comes back. Maybe you get 40 games of Lawler this year and you go, you know what? We're pulling the plug. We're going to trade him for something, and we're going to try to bring back in Gino for 2 years and then figure out third base later.
Are you kidding me? No. No, Gino is at – look, what was it? What game was it? It was Saturday in Pittsburgh. I sit here and I watch every game. I watch every game. And I throw my pencil – and they put him over at first base because they made the trade for Naylor, and it was in the extra inning game. And it was, okay, that's kind of interesting. Could I see Gino move over there at some point in his career? Can I see Gino be a designated hitter? Can I see better out of third base and get younger, quick, whatever it may be? I going back on Torrey, though, it's sometimes a voice, and I am not saying that this is what I believe should happen. But I believe it's very fair to wonder that an organization can say, we've had the same voice leading the ship for a while now. We need to have a new voice. It's very fair to wonder that. Very fair on the front office side. I am not of the opinion that they do need to blow this thing up. But if the owner is sitting there saying, I need answers. I need answers for what happened this year. That's why I keep going back to this of, it all sounds great. It would not surprise me at all seeing Ken comes in and just, we need to do something different. And Derek, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I like Torrey as a manager. Every once in a while I watch the games and I wonder if him and Bannister's roles were flipped, what that would look like. I don't think Bannister wants to be a manager just based on knowing him a little bit, but I know that's a topic of conversation. But again, what I always tell people, it's okay. Who do you bring in to replace him? And unless there's a manager just sitting there, this could have been the year with Tito sitting there.
I think you can find, remember, Pat Murphy was just a bench coach in Milwaukee, and look at the job that Pat's doing. And yeah, I know Pat, I've known Murph for a long time. Who would have thought Craig Counsell would leave Milwaukee to go to the Cubs?
Yeah.
Who would have thought that Schilt would be put in place in San Diego and that they'd run Bomel off? Finding the right guy to push buttons, I think that it's not as easy as it appears to be. Like Dave Roberts, people, he has the easiest job in the world. He just rolls that lineup out. I think he has the hardest job in the world because he has 25 different corporations in 25 different lockers and 25 different islands with 25 different sets of circumstances all around them. That's not easy to manage that job.
Yeah.
You try to go.
It's so hard. I mean, you mentioned the Padres. I mean, they've had high expectations for 5 years, and they at one point went through 4 straight managers until they finally got to Schilt. And he seems like the guy that's kind of, stabilized the culture, and they seem like a team that's going to be in the playoffs most years, if not every year, while he's there now. So that's the argument in Arizona. Is it better to keep the stability and just hope the right things play out, or do you need to go through that run? I'm not saying you want to go through 3 or 4 managers in a 4 or 5 year window, but maybe you do have to start looking and seeing, okay, we got to try different voices and see what clicks, because you have a young core that can do it with the right pieces and the right voice. It's just,
and you have a young core. You have a young core that has to believe in what is going on here. In this day and age in pro sports, the players do hold a hammer. They can hold a hammer. They can make life miserable. They can have the right agent to try to force them out of a certain situation. Doesn't matter what sport you're in. You may have to go sit on the sideline until it happens, or in the dugout until it happens, or on the bench until it happens. But you can have guys that are like, behind the scenes, I don't want to be here. You can have agents that I'm going to switch agents because this agent doesn't get along with said so. I don't know. It's a lot of in the weeds. I think today is just, is it overreaction? Overreaction is, okay, this guy was the 6th best prospect. I don't know. The numbers in Reno every year, numbers in Reno look great. Oh, they're awesome. They're amazing. Look at what they're doing in Reno. And then they come here and reality hits. So I'm not going to jump too high or too low. It's just, I lean towards the side today that this was a good day for the organization in a terrible situation. And it is, we shall see. And I think there's a path for Merrill to come back here. I don't know about Gino. I don't know if I'd bring him back. I certainly wouldn't bring Gino back as a third baseman. No.
On their way, Merrill for sure. He's talked about. He was very open about it. Is like, hey, I know the business. If they trade me, I get a chance to go make a World Series run, and I'm thankful for that. But I love it here, and it's not a guarantee he would come back. He might fall in love with Texas and really like it out there and stick around for a while. Or again, he might be like, okay, yeah, you guys offer me the right deal. But when the season started, I would have said him and Gallen both not coming back now. Gallen not coming back because you're probably not going to offer him even the qualifying offer of $21 million. If you do, you're only doing it to get an arm to get through the season because no one's going to match that offer, so you're not getting a comp pick. And then Kelly, again, you're probably trying to bring him back because you need to fill out the rotation next year. It's looking pretty empty, so they're going to have to find a way to fill it. And then Gino, yeah, again, unless he just completely falls off the map in Seattle and the price tag just drops off the table and you need a right-handed bat, which they might.
Right.
But outside of that, he's going to have a really high price tag. They're not going to want to pay on a player of his age. That's one thing Mike Hazen's done. He's overpaid maybe for 30-something-year-old pitchers, not for position players. They're not afraid to let them walk, and I think that's where they stood with Geno. So that's how it goes.
Yeah, I think Merrill, if he goes down to Texas and pitches well, the decimal point's going to move into a different stratosphere. And the Rangers have their spring trainings here in Arizona, so he's not away from his family as much. It's funny how you can find a property in a city if the decimal point moves way down the line. It's just funny how that works. You can be building a house here as he's doing, but
exactly. And for him too, I think what people don't realize, you look at his age, his velocity and his stuff hasn't dropped in 5 years. He knows the pitcher he is, and it wasn't reliant just off pure velo and getting it past people. So he became, by the time he got to the big leagues at 30, he became a complete pitcher, and he's been that. And so he's not a guy that I don't think teams are going to worry about, giving him too long of a contract, because even with his age, he's been just steady all across the board. So he's going to be fine.
All right, to wrap this up, we're going to have lots of cheerleading going on. It's the greatest day. These players are all going to be great. They're all going to be awesome. And you may be on that side of the street. It's fine. I am on the let's wait and see, but this was necessary.
Yeah, I am too. As I pull up the list again, Locklear seems like a fine first baseman. I have some Mariners friends, and they've all told me, he's been good in the minors, hasn't quite put it together in the big leagues with limited exposure last year.
Right.
So maybe he reminds me of a less hyped up Lawler. So maybe he's the first baseman of the future. If not, you're looking for that again in a couple years. Honestly, as I looked at this list, some of these pitching prospects look promising. We showed the video of Cole earlier. He seems like the most promising one, but truthfully, the only way that this looks really good to me is Lawler. Lawler's the one that everybody needs to kind of see what he can do. I think he's the one that can justify a lot of these moves. If he comes up and does what he does, the offense is going to be just as good as it was now, if not better, because there'll be more athleticism. And then pitching-wise, it's just they got to get their arms back. They got to get Corbin Burns back, Justin Martinez, Puck, Christian Mena, who was phenomenal before he went down. He's going to be a mainstay in the rotation if he can stay healthy. So they really, again, it's just one or two of these arms. If they can just figure it out and develop, we'll look back in a couple of years and say they did the right thing. Or they're going to miss on all of them like they've done in previous years. And you look back at the Goldschmidt trade and they missed on everybody. You can't predict these things. It's just how it goes. You won't know for a few years.
Well, I'll throw another name in there too that I was going to mention. Drew Jones.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, a first-round pick. Oh, he's going to be awesome. He's going to be amazing. He's the greatest. He's the this. He's the that. How's it going? You know, when Jordan Lawler was up here, oh, he's going to be awesome. He's going to be amazing, and couldn't hit. How's it going? So you start to look at these things and say, guys, please don't sit there and hype and sell hype. Please do not sell that Baseball America rates him as the 6th best prospect with the 4th best arm and the 5th best in what the velo, and it just doesn't matter. Can you play the game or not? And so if Jordan Lawler and Drew Jones come into what they should be, you can't miss on first-round picks. You can't. And the Diamondbacks have had some times through the years where they've had high first-round draft picks that didn't work out, that were complete failures and complete busts. And I think in some cases, it's why they went through years and years, the decades of decline when they just kept missing. And give me Drew Jones and give me Jordan Lawler, and don't give me we'll see in 2026, 2027. No, you're out of it. I want to see them. I think the fans want to see the kids play. Fans deserve to see the kids play. I know what Lourdes Gurriel Jr. can do. I know that. I don't know what Drew Jones can do. The baby backs of 2004, fans loved watching them play. Mm-hmm. They leaned into Matt Cada. They leaned into some of those guys.
Yeah.
And I'm all in favor of that. So
the other one on the list here is ADC. Del Castillo can swing it, and fans love watching him play. He's fun. He should be getting at bats. I thought maybe he was going to be the first baseman long term. I think that's going to happen because he can't seem to catch at a big league level. But he should be DHing every day right now or be in the lineup. Maybe put him out there at first base and see what happens. What do you have to lose at this point? He's a guy that can hit. You got to see what you have in him and see what happens if you give him a 40-game stretch consistently playing and see what's there. Same with Lawler. Same with Locklear now. Fans are excited to see him. Let's see what he's got. Maybe if you give him 40 games at first base, he looks very promising. Or you look at him and say, we're going to need someone else. But at least let the fans and everybody see him and just let them play every day. So the whole rest thing that they do at this point of the year, just let the young guys play every day. Gurriel can get a couple more off days. If you got to give Cattell a couple extra off days because he always takes off days, and now you want to get Blaze Alexander more at bats, do it. This is the year to do it now.
All right. You got anything else in here? Or are we all cleaned out?
I think we're all cleaned up. I think moral of the story, it's fun to get prospects back. Again, you get 10, 11 prospects in a trade deadline. If 2 of them pan out, they're going to look back and say, man, we did great at that deadline.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. That's just how it is.
All right, man. Good chatting with you. Talk to you later.
See you, Brad. Later.
See ya.